There are three major sects in Jainism. The first is the Shvetambaras, who insist on wearing nothing when duty demands. They believe that everything must be renounced, including clothing and the shame of nakedness. You find them mostly in southern India, and they tend to be the more conservative branch of Jainism. They do not accept women into the monastic life, believing that they have to be reborn as men before they can become monks, and they also reject the idea that Mahavira was ever married. The Shvetambaras, or the white-clad, are the liberal wing, who believe in wearing at least one garment. They allow women to enter the monastic life as nuns. They teach that Mahavira was married at one time, but renounced this to find liberation, and you find them mostly in northern India. The Sthanakavasis are reformers who do not make use of either temples or images, but rather focus on meditation and individual austerities. This particular sect is less than 200 years old and is essentially a reform movement that rejects the venerations of statues of Mahavira and other Tirthankaras, and they also focus on meditation and individual austerities. Because they emphasize the ability of individuals to purify themselves and to perfect their own characters, Jains do not believe that devotional acts directed towards God or deceased leaders bring help. Nevertheless, the Hindu practice of puja has been adopted by most Jains. There's a general feeling that the devotional acts have a good effect on one's state of karma, and that they focus the mind on saintly behavior. Jain temples, therefore, contain statues of the Tirthankaras, especially Rishabha, the first Tirthankara, Nemi, the 22nd, Parshva, and of course, Mahavira. Puja is performed before statues regularly. This usually involves the offering of food or incense or flowers. Sometimes, as pictured here, you'll see the statues being bathed in milk and devotees circumambulating or walking around the statues. Many Jains also maintain home altars where they perform this puja. Fasting is regularly practiced by monks and nuns, particularly at the times of full and new moons. Lay people join the monks in fasting on the last days of the Jain year in the late summer, before the celebration of the new year begins in August or September. This period of fasting is known as Parishana, and it lasts 15 days for the Digambaras and 8 days for the Shvetambaras. The religious year ends with a confession of wrongdoing and a plea for pardon from anyone the devotee might have offended. Jains speak of ancient scriptures called the Purvas that no longer exist in their entirety, but only as limited quotations in later scripture. Disagreements exist among the sects as to what is to be accepted as canonical. For example, the Shvetambaras sect literature contains 45 works divided into the canonical scriptures and later non-canonical works. At the heart of the canonical material are the angas, or limbs, of which 11 of 12 still remain. The 12 angas, then, are the part of the sacred scriptures of Jainism which holds the foremost position. They are essentially a collection of laws and rituals. The angas are the teachings of Mahavira, given their final form 2 centuries after his death. There are also 12 upangas, or lesser limbs, a collection of laws and rituals and other miscellaneous texts. Later non-canonical works include biographies of holy persons, commentaries on canonical works, and books of philosophy and science. The Digambara sect does not fully accept the authority of the angas, maintaining that the words of Mahavira were remembered and transmitted imperfectly. On the contrary, the Sthanakavasis do not recognize any literature as scripture. The most striking examples of Jain art are the statues of Mahavira and the other Tirthankaras. Jain figures tend to be bold, powerful, and imposing, particularly those statues of Tirthankaras shown naked and standing. Their nakedness somehow adds to their strength, and the standing figures are often presented with their legs and arms surrounded by vines, their immobility suggesting persistence and strength of character. Jain temple architecture does not reflect the same simplicity. Some temples show a love for richness and decoration, and some feature exuberant elements borrowed from European architecture, such as Corinthian columns. Self-mortification is the ideal form of self-training through which omniscience and release are obtained. The ascetic gains power not only over himself through his severe practices, becoming an awesome figure whom even the gods fear. Jain scriptures teach that Mahavira and his parents died by self-starvation. Jains see that all of life is a preparation for the liberation of the spirit from the body, and when a person is sufficiently evolved spiritually, that person can make the final choice to no longer create more karma. The Jain ideal thus allows and esteems ending one's life only after a long life of virtue and detachment, and it must be done with consideration for others. Gentle methods of ending one's life are the best, such as walking into an ocean or a lake. The most highly esteemed method is called self-starvation or salakana, also known as holy death. Jains prepare for salakana over the years by practicing fasting. When a person is old and growing weak, eating less and less is seen as an appropriate way to hasten the end. Self-starvation, or the final fast, involves giving up food but continuing to drink liquids. With this policy, death comes in about a month, and this kind of death by self-starvation is considered an ultimate, noble expression of non-attachment and freedom. As with the Buddha, the gods are there, and people worship the gods, but the problem with the gods is they cannot bring final salvation. Rather, the religious teacher knows the secret of immortality. Likewise with people. Knowledge is the key to salvation, being an experiential acquaintance with the spiritual realm, but the trouble with people is not sin, but rather spiritual ignorance, for people are so immersed and bound to the world that they can't see. The vast majority of people are obstructed from full knowledge by their karma, so those who follow the austere path of Mahavira can re-achieve this essential omniscience, which is a state of liberation in which the influence of karma is broken. Escape from the effects of karma involves complete quietism, withdrawal from the world of humans, and the practice of austerities, which will counteract karmic matter. Morality is a progression towards liberation, culminating, hopefully, in the monastic life, for only in the monastic life is true spiritual life possible. Severe asceticism, often found in this monastic life, is the only effective way of avoiding evil. This is the basis of the central virtue of ahimsa, or nonviolence. Non-injuring of life renounces lying speech, all sexual pleasures, and all attachments, becoming houseless, uncommitted to anyone or any cause, save the task of promoting the faith and their own heroic salvation. Of course, this requires dhyana, or deep meditation.